Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues and listeners, guess where I am? For those who can't, I'm with Mr. Dickson. And we've had a little mini celebration of yesterday's triumph, and why not? So for anybody now, yes, Stephen, for anybody now doesn't appreciate the wonderful result yesterday, you're probably better off to switch off, because we are going to celebrate not just the British win, the English win, but we're all going to celebrate the way in which it was done and the humility of the boys who spoke afterwards, and also the team spirit, which is something that we can all aspire to now as we bounce back better from this damn virus that's just been going on for far too long. So, Steve, thank you very much for your hospitality. I'm enjoying the first Italian beer. I feel we're going to have a Spanish one next, just in case we meet either Spain or Italy in the final. Whichever it will be a great game, and England will win.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. What a cracking game, Chris. Cracking game.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. But joking aside, Steve, we've been talking about training and leadership and what's necessary. But I think, and again, it's only just using it. It could be any team that gets that far. But we've never been used to seeing a team with so much humility and no sort of superstar or Galactico. They really do look like a unit that have come together, got great team spirit. But what's even more impressive is their succession group, or the backup guys, step in, and it's seamless.
Well, I think the amazing thing is, Chris, is as always in these sort of events and these tournaments and competitions, the manager and his selection of the day always comes in for a great deal of criticism.
Yep.
And suddenly England has now 50 million Gareth Southgates, 50 million wannabe England managers who all proclaim to know better than the manager himself. A very interesting parallel, of course, that we draw with that in general life and business, and particularly in our industry, whereby 15, 16, 17 months ago, people were questioned for the decisions they were making, but they were turned out to be vindicated. The one that springs to immediate mind, keeping the British theme alive, is British Airways, IAG and Willie Walsh. And making those tough cutbacks early on, seeing what was coming, seeing this was playing the long game, playing the slow game, not going into attack actually or into defence particularly quickly, but actually making the right defensive moves at the times that were necessary to protect British Airways. And as you will have seen, whilst there was a lot of flack and criticism that he took or they took collectively as a management team from the city, from the investors, from the government, from ministers, from MPs, from the unions, from employees themselves, it turned out that actually making those defensive moves early on were the right thing to do. So Gareth Southgate's style of the team together, or his or the team that he does put together, has come into question. Where actually what Gareth Southgate has done is an England team in this competition. Let's not forget, Chris. Yes, the 4 goals they scored were spectacular last night. Great to see Harry Kane back in top form.
Yeah.
But the best thing that I've seen is England have still never conceded a goal in this competition.
Yep.
And so whilst they might come in for a bit of flack, actually, I think everything that Gareth Southgate has been done, and I'm not a football expert by any stretch of imagination. Somebody questioned me even being an aviation expert. But hey, look, in seriousness, it's not my field. But what I have seen is that the commentary that he has received has vindicated his decisions, and that's what you want, whether in business or in sport.
Yep, 100%. And the other thing that we can put, and linking it to our industry is.
I hope you're enjoying my air conditioning in there, because it's very warm in the room that I'm in.
Mate, this is beautiful. I got the window open. I can almost see the river. This is happy days, son.
I'm sweltering here.
I'm looking round at all the ornaments and everything. I like it.
Ornaments. You'll think ornaments. You think people will think I've got Royal Dalton or something. I don't.
Your little knickknacks. Nice picture of Richard Branson there with you. We'll bring that up in a minute.
Stop it, Chris. Stop it.
Yeah. Oh, very nice.
It was the Ladro. Remember the Ladro from the 80s, big in the 80s and 90s?
Yes.
There is no Ladro in my house, just to confirm to any of our listeners.
Yeah, no, I know that very well, Steve.
There's an odd aircraft or two, though.
Yeah. I'm looking up at them now. Yeah, EasyJet staring straight down at me. But the other likeness, they've invested so much in the youth and grassroots and the way they train.
Absolutely.
And you can see that now. And now, when you look at the youngsters that are coming into the team with the flair, with the way they're able to have, full confidence, they're doing so much so well. It's incredible. And I just think that's the way forward.
I think, as you said, there's a combination of A-listers, but they've all acted in unity, which I think is important in any sport or business. The one thing I have been slightly disappointed by, Chris, actually some of the supporters, and they haven't shown the same level of humility or respect to the teams that England is competing with. So I thought it was atrocious the other night that the English fans were booing over the German national anthem, something that people should never do. And England have done it in every game bar none in this competition. When I say England, I mean English supporters, and it's probably a minority. That just gets on my goat. It grates on me. That's not respectful at all. When I think about when I was in Germany for the World Cup, Chris, in 2006.
Yeah, it was awesome, wasn't it?
And I was living in Berlin, and the way that the Germans treated, I mean, I was living there, so I was sort of a resident, if you like. But the way that I saw that the Germans treated the Brits and the English fans when they were there, and every fan, with complete respect. They were all friendly. Everybody was mates, all singing and dancing. And yeah, one team might lose or win over the other, but there was none of this animosity and this downright disrespectful behaviour that we see now.
Yeah, but like you mentioned there, Steve, hopefully it's the minority, and please God, people will start to learn that part of winning is to, yes, continue to be hungry, but also to be humble and give respect to competition.
Well, did you see? I mean, at the end of yesterday's game, you saw, Andrei Shevchenko, who, is a bit of a British star anyway. He was embracing all the English players, hugging them all.
Yeah,
obviously,
especially Kane.
Especially Kane. Shevchenko, I think, still has a house down near Wentworth. He plays golf for the lads regularly. He lives. His son is on a training apprenticeship with Chelsea. So he's got obviously a great fondness of England. Lives in England and but manages the Ukrainian team. I thought that was wonderful. I also thought the commentary with Jurgen Klinsmann the other night with Germany. I thought what a humble man he is as well. To show the respect and the it was brilliant. Yeah. And that generation, Chris, I suspect. I mean, Shevchenko's only early 40s, a very young man by some standards.
And he looks like he could still be playing.
He could.
He looked as fit as I've ever seen a man of his age. He looked superb.
And he's always done up immaculately. Yeah. That generation are, hopefully that will rub off on some of the younger players coming to the system now, and also on some of these fans who need to get their act together.
Yeah, but I think it was interesting to listen to Ferdinand and Shearer and everybody, and they were talking about in their day, they always seen the press and the media and everybody else as an enemy. And that's why they were always very guarded and very sarky. And they were actually saying how well spoken these guys are and how open they are to speak about anything that they're questioned on, but to do so with humility. And that is the best victor of them all. Somebody who doesn't gloat, somebody who doesn't rub it in your face and just carries on and wants to be better and better all the time and gives great respect to competition. Because if the competition are that good and you're winning, it means you must be great. Yeah, absolutely.
I think Denmark will be interesting. I don't know how that's going to play out, but fingers crossed that we're still have got the confidence and go into it with a at the same humility as we've as England did in this last game. So
yeah, please God, let's hope it's third semi-final lucky.
Well, I'm looking forward to final. Final will be great.
Yeah. I remember, I've got to tell you this one, because I don't know whether he ever listens or not, but if he doesn't, I'm going to make sure he knows. My old boss at Lufthansa, Frank Breuer, we were at a conference one year and the World Cup was going on. And he said to me, why don't we have a bet? I said, yeah, well, whatever you want. He said, if I win, and it was Balak's Germany shirt. He said, you have to wear it to the conference and wear it all day long during the conference. And he said, if I lose, I'll wear, and I said, Rooney's. I said, I'll get the shirt. So he bought a Balak shirt. I had a Rooney shirt. Mother of Moses, Germany won. And I had to wear that shirt. I've still got it. And it brings back fond memories. But as soon as I get off this, or maybe tomorrow morning, I'm going to phone Frank up and just remind him.
Oh, as soon as you get off this, you're taking me for Sunday lunch,
Oh,
Chris.
yes. Yeah, silly old me. So it'll be tomorrow. So Frank Broyer, if you're out there listening, I'm going to give you a ring and just rub it in a little bit. But hopefully next week we'll be successful as well. And poor old James Wyatt, regular listener, he's going to be stuck between the two because he loves to be English when we do well, and he's also German when he needs to be. So he's got a bit of both there. So I'm wondering which way he's swinging at the moment. But anyhow, that's enough of England. Otherwise, we'll get people going mad. But please, God,
an unintended innuendo.
Yeah, but please God, next week's show will be all about the final.
What date is the final, Chris? Is it?
I think it's on Saturday, isn't it? Saturday night.
Is it next Saturday or Sunday? I thought it was the same day as Wimbledon final. I think it's Sunday. Is it not?
Is it? To be honest with you, it's not something that I looked in anticipation about. But I'm going to have a little peek.
It might be the 10th, which is Saturday. I think you could be right.
Yeah. So listen, now what do we talk about this week? So I thought another common denominator for us both is Saudi Arabia. And now, the announcement that they're looking.
It's on Sunday the 11th, Chris.
It's Sunday the 11th, is it?
Yeah, 8 o'clock. It should be well after the men's final finishes. But if Wimbledon men's finals are anything to go by, it can go well on in late into the night.
Indeed. Talking about Wimbledon final, what a lovely young lady talking about humility and fun. How good is that?
I've forgotten her name, Raducanu or something.
Yeah.
Fantastic. She was more worried, she said, about having any whites available for her games this week. Her mum said to her partner, allegedly, during the interview, she said she was concerned why are you taking so many match kits with you? Good God, darling, you're taking way too many with you. And lo and behold, she needed every single one of them. So good on her. 18-year-old British hopeful. All the other British hopefuls are now dead and buried. Yeah. So, sorry, not dead and buried. I mean, I don't mean that literally, but metaphorically. So, yeah, good on her.
Yeah, it's nice. It's lovely to have good news and a bit of spirit there. It's brilliant. So, talking about national spirit and everything. So, I'm just referring now to MBS and the new Saudi airline that they're going to bring on board, and why and how it's going to enhance the 2030 vision and the targets and increase GDP from 6% to 10%, and it's going to bring everything in line. What do you think? I personally, I think it's great, and the fact that they're considering basing it in Riyadh and then having the Jeddah-based airline as we know it and as we worked with and for, more on the religious tourism side out of Jeddah.
Well, I'm not. Is it speculation still, Chris, or is it now confirmed? I only saw the Reuters or Bloomberg report in which it was speculation. It hadn't been any formal announcement. So I guess we should be careful. It came out from
the information that I got was from the state news agency, SPA.
Oh right, okay. Then sorry, I think I'd maybe seen one on Thursday, which was a sort of a preempting that possibly.
Yeah, this was from the SPA, but they didn't go into specifics. They didn't say numbers. They didn't talk about aircraft. But what they were saying is that they want to have now a really, really substantial presence there with over 250 aircraft.
Yeah, I guess
looking at it, Chris, 250 international destinations being served, 4.5 million cargo tons.
There are, as you know, having worked in the kingdom like myself, and those associated with the kingdom, we know that there are often very high aspirations when it comes to goals or expectations of what can be done in very short periods of time, and particularly in the last 4 or 5 years since MBS has had the tiller in his hand, or he's been at the helm, if you like. And I think nothing wrong with aspiration. However, some of the numbers that you quoted there, Chris, are staggering.
Yep.
So I think let's look at it. Let's take a few steps back. What's happened in recent years is there's been a number of attempts to reform and to transform Saudia, a carrier that I love dearly, and I know you do feel very strongly about Saudi, and they've got some great people there. Yep. And actually, I had a friend that flew on Saudi last week, and they said, "Do you know what? We could not fault it. It was absolutely brilliant." They were on the new 787. I think they were flying Dubai into Riyadh, and they said it was a great experience. And so the investment in product, the investment in the hard product, the refleeting, moving out some of the older aircraft, the 74s, the old 777-200s, refleeting with the 777-3s, 787-9s, the -10s now in the fleet. I think that's all gone exceptionally well. I mean, at one stage they were taking about 3 or 4 wide bodies a month in 2016 or 17 when I was there, and you would have been too, Chris. So that was, you know, it's heavy growth, but also it was refleeting a lot of the older aircraft. So they've done really well on that side. I think the problem with Saudi is they've still got the legacy workforce, and that's their biggest challenge. And you know, without sort of revealing any, you know, too many sort of secrets or company confidential information, I think it's fair to say that Saudi carries a larger workforce than necessary. I think it's also fair to say that workforce probably is paid significantly above market rates. And some of the legacy practices that are in place, not just within the operational ranks, but also in the management ranks, are not conducive to competing effectively with either product or unit costs comparable to the likes of Al-Ittihad, Al-Emiratiya, Al-Qatariya, and the other Middle East big three. So Saudi actually became the largest carrier in the Middle East last month. Saudi now is larger than Emirates, larger than Etihad, larger than Qatar, which is a phenomenal feat in terms of their operation. Now, that will reset itself, Chris, when capacity is restored back to the market, I suspect. But I think this is an interesting move. I think, you know, there is an awful lot of O&D traffic that is owned by, or Sixth Freedom, if you like, traffic that is owned by Emirates, Qatar, and Etihad. I think Etihad really now is a very small player, not much to consider on the global landscape as it probably was once upon a time. I think the ones that Saudi probably compete with more effectively are Emirates and Qatar. That's nothing against Etihad, by the way. I love Etihad, but that's just probably a fact, reality. So I think the interesting thing for me, Chris, has always been that Saudi has a large domestic market of 27 million people, a growing population, a mobile population. I have Saudi neighbours here, not very far from where you're sitting in that stool in my building, and they commute back and forth. Some of them are students, some of them are, you know, parents bought properties here so they can be at university. And, you know, Saudis are very mobile people. Yeah. I think 60%, don't quote me, but something around that number, a high number, the majority of the population is below 40. It's a young, growing population, very socially active and very curious about travel. So I think that lends itself well when you compare it to the likes of Qatar, Emirates, or Etihad's home-based population. Those airlines really depend heavily on O&D traffic. So from that perspective, I think Saudi Arabia has got a good base on which to build its proposition. I'm not sure how that plays into the notion of Riyadh, or the new Riyadh-based airline being you know, heavily sort of skewed towards, from what I read, O&D traffic from international Sixth Freedom markets. So I think there probably is a place for Saudi, but I suspect it's much reduced from what it is today. I don't think there's a place for both of them. I think Jeddah has been well served by Saudi, to the detriment of the population of Riyadh and potentially elsewhere in the kingdom. And when you look at, you know, at one stage before the blockade, you know, Qatar was flying to Jizan, Qasim, Abha, Khail, Tobruk, all these places, Chris, right? I think there are 12 destinations in the kingdom, picking customers up over Doha and then global, whereas Saudi was only offering anything to those customers from Jeddah, predominantly. So I do think there is some need to sort of, you know, reconnect some of the dots in the network. But, you know, will it grow to the scale that they're aspiring to? I don't know. I wish them every success and best of luck. But I do think that that they have tried very, very hard over the last few years to transform Saudi, and it's not necessarily had the results that they wanted it to. So maybe this they're hoping is the silver bullet, or the bit of maybe the thorn in the side of Saudi to shake them up a little bit more.
And if they come up with an international tourist model, I mean, there are some incredible sites, as you know, in Saudi. I mean, it's a vast country. It's got some of the most spectacular scenery and things that you wouldn't expect. And for people who've never, people who've, at the end of the day, the world's a pretty small place. So there's not many places that people haven't had access to as freely as they would like. And if now it opens up in Saudi, I mean, it could be an exceptional place to visit.
There are amazing places to visit. I've done some of the best diving I've ever done in the world in Saudi, Chris, in the Red Sea. I visited some ancient sites like Maidan Saleh, which is older than the ruins in Petra, in Jordan, and some amazing, beautiful experiences. One thing that people mustn't forget is the Saudi people, the Saudi peoples, which of course are immigrants themselves from all parts of the Arab world and beyond. But the Saudi peoples are some of the most hospitable, welcoming people you will ever come across in this world. And it's unfortunate that the Western press and the Western media twist the narrative to suit their own agenda and their own objectives. And I find that utterly wrong. So if Saudi can work to change some of that image, which I think still needs some work, then I think they'll go into a really good thing. But I would be happy to holiday in Saudi when the time is right. Not sure my wife will be with me necessarily at this stage, but maybe in a couple of years' time.
Yeah. But you're right about the hospitality. I remember being invited to Hassan al-Dessi's house, and meeting his family on a Friday, and all his dad's brothers, and his dad was a lovely man. And amazingly, even though he couldn't speak much English, and you know what my Arabic's like, but we got
Chris.
We got on so well. With
a smile.
But we had something in common, which was to make sure Hassan, his son, we both gave him a hard time to make him, knuckle down and work. And I got to say, what a lad he's turned out to be.
Well, I'd say both congratulations to Hassan al-Dessi, because I know he was recently promoted, Chris. But I also just saw last week that Hassan Khan also was promoted into a new role. So congratulations also. So mabruk to the two Hassans.
Yes, and both of them, two of the nicest human beings I think I've ever met. And Hassan Khan,
great lads.
What a gentleman! Yeah, so
he's a very Hassan al-Dessi has a cheeky little style to him. Also a little bit provocative now and then when he needed to be. Hassan Khan was absolutely straight as a die, absolute gentleman, very curious individual, but really diligent and smart. Both of them are great talent for Saudi Cargo.
Yeah, I remember I'd selected the two of them for sort of like a development sort of program, along with another good lad, Yazid Al-Arbi, fantastic footballer.
Yazid Al-Harbi,
with a sweet left leg. And I remember we did a couple of exercises, and I kept them and I made them redo it. It's
Yazid running OCF now or something, was he? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Of them, I could see they would have happily thrown me in a river, off the top of the building or whatever. But the hard work paid off, and they've done so well. And I am so pleased for all three of them.
I think you should be very proud of them. Yeah,
I am. Absolutely brilliant. And then Teddy Zebitz now becoming CEO, which is another. He's another character. He's got the most incredible, good, I think, British sense of humour. You know what I mean? He can pick up on something so quick, but an incredibly intelligent and.
I think that was after my time, Chris.
Yeah, but his strategy, Steve. Absolutely superb. Tactical and strategy, I would say, is one of the best I've ever seen. And of course, Omar. Omar is now heading up the ports. So he's got a HE in front of his title now.
Oh, he's now His Excellency.
Yes, he is. Yeah. I said it's like highly energized, because you know that walk he's got, isn't he? He walks in that casual way. I'm thinking that's what the HE is. Highly energized.
Wasn't Omar's podcast one of the most watched ever that you did, I think, on the show, Chris?
Yes. I'm going to hopefully get him back on now once he gets his teeth into the business of
his feet under the table. Yeah.
Which he will do.
Yeah, or dips his toe in the water.
Exactly. Yes. No, but good luck to them all. Great lads, great company, good people. Now, next thing, Turkish. We've spoken about QR an awful lot, about the way they've expanded, kept the doors and the areas open, and they've done so much. But Turkish also have done exceptionally well now, and they're still flying all over the place. And I was just reading one of the points there about how pleased they are that they're able to, deliver over 100 million doses and go to countries and go to destinations that without them, would have had trouble getting them because they're nowhere near a vaccine producing country. So they've done an exceptional job as well. And Turkish, I think, will also come back when this bounce back and build back better comes. I think they'll have learned an awful lot and they'll come back so strong. I've
always liked Turkish, Chris. The one thing I never liked before was bloody Ataturk. I found not the person, I have to say. I mean, the Ataturk airport. I never met
but the old airport.
Yeah, I did not like Ataturk Airport. I thought it was a miserable place and a pretty shoddy experience. And you could walk for miles and not seem to go anywhere. If you know Ataturk Airport, you'll understand what I mean by that strange definition. That said, IAG is absolutely on a scale that nobody has ever sort of been able to comprehend before. It is an enormous airport, which I think Turkish is putting to very good use. I think Turkish fly often to these sort of places that are, can be well served by narrow bodies, Chris. Well served by the 321s, 320s, particularly 321 Neos now as well. I also think Turkish are a customer of the 330-900, which is the Neo, the 330 version. One of the few customers, I think one of only less than half a dozen airlines that have taken that 330 Neo option. But I do think there is, somebody will correct me on that if I'm wrong, I'm sure, but I have that somewhere stuck in the back of my head somewhere. No, I think Turkish done a really good job. A lot of short to medium haul sectors, in and around a very competitive European market. Some can argue Turkey, whether it's European or Asian, but I think actually it straddles, factually both continents, and therefore I think Turkish see themselves very much with a European Western mindset in an environment that is potentially some of their traditional customer base maybe is more Asian or more Central Asian, more customer base. But I think they've done very well. They've got a massive fleet. But the problem with that massive fleet was they had to ground that massive fleet for the most part during the crisis. I think they'll have pushed them through well. I also think their cargo, you'll know this better than I do, Chris, but their cargo product is one that is very well respected in the world. It's not the cargo product. And of course, they've increased their freighter capacity over this last 12 months as well, have they not?
Yep. And I think a lot of people now are looking at what they can do with freighters, even AirAsia. So Javid and the boys there, they're looking at introducing a 737-800 later on. So they're looking at what they can do with freighter capacity, because obviously this situation is going to go on now for, I think, another 2-3 years. So there's going to be a huge focus now on what people can do with cargo moving forward. Not just because of the business side, but also keeping the supply chain open, because things are starting to slow down now, and it's it's a bit worrying.
Well, I think careful what you wish for, but you've got to sort of learn to walk before you run. And I guess there's a lot of carriers that have built up massive liabilities and issues with their supply chain base, as you mentioned, Chris, the supply chain. And so there's an awful lot of work to do to resolve some of that before we start sort of pushing into other markets. I think what has to be seen in the next 6-12 months is we've got to find this not this reset, but really this restart.
Yes, yeah.
And hopefully now with the vaccine penetration and propensity now we've got more globally, I think that's on to a very good start. But still we see things opening up, closing down. Bloody Australia, bloody Australians. I mean, they're just terrible, Chris. I mean, awful. I speak to Australians every day. I had 2 calls from Qantas this week, from friends in Qantas. One was work related, one was personal related. But the frustration that exists down in that part of the world is palpable.
And I think
reducing the quotas once again. I mean, really awful. They are the lowest vaccinated country in the OECD. Places like what was it? What's that? I can't remember one of these South American countries in the OECD, Chile or Santa something or something. Above Australia and New Zealand, who are bottom of the list, woeful. Yet you look at
they've relied on just closing everything up and protecting
everything up. Yeah. It's just appalling what they've done.
Yeah.
So there's no prospect now of Australia opening up internationally until at least 2022. That's just phenomenal. Meantime, in Europe, here we are. We've had the new health secretary in less than 7 or 8 days in the job. Prime Minister acted decisively. Found out on Friday. New health secretary on Saturday. Sajid Javid is 8 days in, already making a marked move away from the hawkish Matt Hancock. and saying that all of the rules will disappear by the 17th of July, but we expect people to make the right decisions and common sense decisions where they would be appropriate. The wonder I have, Chris, is how much common sense the British public have after 18 months of perennial kind of lockdowns and things. This is the problem.
This is something that I think is going to cause a little bit of the tail of the crocodile or the alligator. You know, everybody's going to be given some freedom now, whether it be for 8, 10 or 12 weeks. But I personally think there's going to be another bout of huge lockdowns again coming at the end of September and October. And they're going to have some really good policies and enforcement rules, whether it be military or police. They're going to have to do something similar to what's been done in some of the other countries, because the level of frustration and the disappointment at the inconsistencies. So now you've got a couple of new terms that people use, like don't do a Hancock or you've been Hancocked. I mean, those sort of things are going to come back. Gov now also, you've got areas where people are doing certain things that perhaps they shouldn't have done. And people are not willing to follow that. You know, this makes sense, so I'll follow the rules. So we've got to be very.
But I completely understand that, Chris. After this awful time that people have had since March last year, so I have no desire now to wear a mask one day longer than it's legally required. So as of the 17th of July or the 24th of July, whatever the day was, my masks are gone. They'll be in the bin. I've done my bit. I've had my vaccination. We were told that we'd open up the country when hospitals were good. They've been good for months and months and months. We were told we'd open up when the virus under control. The virus under control because of the vaccine. We were told that we'd open up the economy when things started to get back to normal. We could have some free. So all of those things, all of those tests have now been passed. So to continue keep pushing the goalposts, or to suggest that there might be another lockdown come September, October, it's wrong. But I don't actually believe that, because I just read in the Telegraph yesterday, those that don't know, the Conservative newsletter, Daily Conservative Party newsletter.
I've got that on my breakfast bar. Yeah.
Was that the Prime Minister has said that we now have to treat and accept this virus as part and parcel of daily life. We will have 20,000 deaths per year, just in the same way that we do with flu. Sorry, lads, let's get on with it. And I think that's the right thing for him to say.
Yeah, as long as they get the little booster vaccinations that come out, so you get a double arm jab.
Well, they're going to do it at the same time they give the influenza jab.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's the right thing. But they shouldn't be given to everybody again. Let's make sure that we prioritise those that are high risk, because that's the ones that they wanted to protect.
Yeah.
I still think there's an issue with care homes. Personally, I don't think that's been solved fully yet. But look, I do care about care homes, obviously. But my focus is seeing the impact of these measures on our industry.
And but what do you think about the Delta variant now? I mean, it's creating such an issue. There's stories now of people having the double vaccine and now getting infected, and
we knew you could get infected because it reduces. I think they said it was less. It drops from 95% efficacy to something like in the 70s. Which I said, well, I'll take my chances. That sounds all right to me. And that's from hospitalization or death. I can't remember which one it is, but one of them. But either or, whichever measure it's indexed to, seems fine. I don't know about the Delta variant. I don't really know how why it acts differently, but I guess it does. But Mrs. Merkel even said on Friday that because now the Delta variant is so prevalent also across Europe, there is no benefit now to restricting UK nationals into the European Union, and we can use. They can use their vaccine passports, which the NHS has issued, and I think 7 of the 27 EU nations have accepted already. There is now a desire to have a universal approval process. Yeah. But the reality is, Chris, this Delta variant's not going to go away. Now we get the Lambda variant. Well, where does it stop?
Let's
just get back to normal. Let's accept if you're vaccinated, you can travel. If you're not vaccinated, just wait a little bit longer and get your vaccine, and then you can travel. I'm glad that the government have also confirmed on Friday, no more COVID passport for bars or restaurants or buses or trains or anything. You'll be disappointed at that, but I'm delighted. I am delighted.
Yes, but it's there in principle, because you travel if you've got your 2 vaccines, you don't if you don't. So it's to a degree, it's there.
No, but I mean for normal settings around here, restaurants or bars or whatever, Yeah, I think it's great, but
I just wish on Merkel's last visit to the UK before she finishes her term, that her and Boris didn't have the same bet that I had with Frank Broyer, and it would be lovely to see her in an England football shirt for the semi-finals and the final. That would have been fantastic.
I've never seen
the best thing Boris could have done.
I've never seen Frau Merkel in anything other than her boxer jackets.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Still, fair play. Well, she did a good job. Now, another issue, Steve. Lots and lots and lots of technology, lots and lots of new innovative ideas, and to a degree, it's flooded, just like the training market. Now, they're all good as they stand alone, and when you look at them, they make sense. And then when you see the way they're put together, they make even more sense. And then the way they're presented and the way if you take the training course, it's fantastic. But does it make a big enough impact quick enough to warrant having so much? So if you're having to choose between what to do with your money, somebody who's making a decision, how do they make the decision and make sure they're getting a return on investment? And that training or those new technology, whether it's to do with a platform or a program or whatever, they're going to have to be plug and play. They're going to have to be shown to make an immediate impact. And there needs to be a lot more focus on it. And one in particular that I did a podcast with was Lionel van der Velde. I don't know if you know him. He's the Global Chief Commercial Officer for Pay Cargo. They've done exceptionally well. That's all about, paying quickly, releasing your cargo, and having an efficient and secure platform to transfer money among themselves at a reduced cost.
A bit like the IATA clearinghouse, but
exactly, primarily for the forwarders. And it is going from strength to strength to strength. So that's fantastic. But looking at many of the others, I think now is an ideal opportunity for them now to have this plug and play where you don't have to repeat things, but if there's something missing in an existing platform or system, this plug and play should just be able to come straight in, fill the gap and make things more efficient. And the same thing with training. People who are allocated training should know why they're being given the training. They should know what they're going to be asked to prove the benefit of after they've had it, and then whether or not they've got some retention of knowledge after 90 to 120 days to see whether it's got an immediate impact. Now, if senior C-suite managers and people who are leading the business, they can then see a return on investment that's going to help the customer service, the customer experience, and also cost management or cost awareness, then that's the sort of training that needs to come back. It's no disrespect to all the other training and the masses, because it's a tsunami now of you need this training to get back into work, you must have this training to do this. I think we have to be very selective what the training focus is as we move forward.
Well, there's two things, Chris. One is, in my mind, just in response to that, but it's general responses. One is there's ab initio training. So take an apprenticeship, for example. That's where we accept that somebody will arrive in my organization with only the fundamentals, let's say.
Yep.
And they might be a 16-year-old school leaver. So not only is it our job to train and educate them with the skills to equip them in the workplace, it's also part of our role to equip them for the skills and the knowledge outside of the workplace.
Yep.
Some could say that's a bit kind of Orwellian, maybe, or sort of treating this, saying to people, this is how you should act. But actually, it's all about equipping that person to become a future leader, become a supervisor, how they interact with their colleagues, interpersonal skills, what to say, what not to say. What you could say back in our day, Chris, is slightly different to what you can say in the work on the shop floor now. So that's on the ab initio side.
Yep.
But for let's say people that have been in the business for 20 years and they're just moving companies. They're transferring from, I don't know, Swissport Cargo to Donata Cargo, for example.
Yep.
Or they're moving from Schenkel's to Kuehne+Nagel, for example, right? It could be anything in any environment. As part of your recruitment process, surely what you do as an employer or a prospective employer is you do a competency assessment and a competency-based interview or a competency-based assessment that will see how well equipped that person is with the competencies or the capabilities required to do their job. So if they have been doing that role for 20 years in another firm, I accept there are different standard operating procedures. I accept there might be a different company culture. I accept there might be different customer practices, etc., etc. However, rather than start from scratch, surely it make much more sense to validate their competency. So if you say so Chris Notter, he's the guy for the job, we employ him. Right, Chris, your first day. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a knowledge test. We're going to assess the knowledge that you have in this area. And we assess the knowledge. And when we identify the gaps that are there, so surely, hopefully there'll be a few positive things, Chris, on your score sheet, right? But actually, we'll focus on the gaps. So rather than go back and focus on all of this, basic stuff that we did, say, I don't need to do a 4-week induction on, the hazards in a warehouse, because I've been doing it for 30 years, man. Come on. What I'd rather do is then, that forklift's a bit different, or that pushback's a bit different, or so you do differences training. What this needs is, people say, Stephen, that's challenging because that's your differential. You're making this unique. We make it unique to the individuals. Yes, but every individual is unique.
Yep.
We're not all robots. We're not standard 1 boys that get taught, when you go to primary 1 or standard 1, you all get taught in the same way, right? To learn how to count, how to do math, how to do English, how to do arithmetic. That's not the case when you're an adult in the workplace, in a professional environment. People shouldn't be expected to be treated in the same way across the board. So I think what they'll say is, look, so we've got to tailor our training. Oh, we do tailored training. But actually, when you look at the overall training days that requires in your business, I'm sure it's much shorter. And you're not teaching a guy, sorry for the saying, but teaching the guy how to suck eggs. You never teach your granny to suck eggs because she's been doing that for the last 60 years. What we should be doing is be much more relevant. Now, it won't work in every environment, Chris, but I do think that responds to your point around sort of validating knowledge, assessing the gaps, and training to meet the gaps, rather than saying this person is we're all in the same boat here. So I think there's some work to do in that. It's easier when you're not doing, employing 30 people at once, 50 people at once to fill gaps. I accept that. That's challenging, but there might be something in that. Maybe something we could explore further, Chris.
No, we should and we must, because this comes back now to the Skylight Care platform that we decided to bring in. This is true evidence. But Steve, I've got a big problem with so much training that's gone on because it's been so commercially driven that you have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. You've got a tick box. You tick it because
that's my point. Yeah.
You do it one way, you do it the other. And then when it comes to the end, you get trainers, good trainers, but because it's the policy, they say, look, guys, we'll have a few questions. And if everybody gets the questions, we'll treat that as if it was the test and you all get your...
Yeah.
Well, that's not competence to me. So the credibility goes. So then you've got all these organisations who either say, well, we don't want to train our people too well because they'll leave, whereas they should be saying if we don't train them, they'll stay. And then if they do leave and transfer, they have to redo things again, which costs money. Yeah. And even with 2P transfers and stuff, you still have to train people. And there should be the higher impact activities that are so important for the business and for the industry, and those should be recognised across all boundaries. And if we could do that, we'd save an awful lot of money, and we'd have a different type of training mentality.
Well, also recognition,
education and learning.
But Chris, recognition that some of the training that I've already completed is relevant and valid. Yeah. And
provided, Steve, like a car, you keep having it serviced and you keep having an MOT, because otherwise you could have 1 year's knowledge that you've kept for 20 years and you haven't actually improved on it or verified it. And I think it's one thing to validate, it's another thing totally to verify. And that's where we need to start going now to make sure what we do is the best possible for the business, big impact, immediate, and that people understand what they've got to do if they want to get on. And that they need to start looking at being upskilled, new skilled, cross-skilled, reskilled, so that they've got that flexibility now to maintain their contract and their own personal ecosystem for their families and their futures. It's a totally different way of thinking, which brings me finally to another different way of thinking.
Good, my stomach's starting to rumble.
And I've been, pardon me, your stomach. And I've been inspired, well, I'm hoping that you won't be eating for so long, but I've been inspired by that picture of you with Richard Branson, and obviously Richard Branson, and then you've got Jeff Bezos, and you've got this new Admiral Jet launching the UK's first dedicated space travel agency. So everybody's talking now about, tourism astronauts, and there's even it's even been stated now that they'll very soon be able to have 4 guests and 2 crew for 12 days by 2022 up on the Aurora space station as a hotel. So, I mean, this is going to be, it's going to be exciting times, and it's nice to be able to escape. But I mean, this is incredible, isn't it now? Huh? It's amazing, isn't it, what's going on? And I've got to tell you something else as well, right? Because I've seen this, right? With the Blue Origin doing their space flight with Jeff Bezos next month, and the one spare seat went in an auction for $28 million. $28 million, what you can do with that. But Swissport are doing the handling in Miami.
What are they handling actually?
Well, I don't think we should go into the detail of what needs to be handled with it. But what I'm saying is, if this space tourism or space trip starts to take off, it's going to have a different dimension to so many people's current thought process. And even, like, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, they showed that car, you know, the car that flew and landed.
Yes, I did. Yes, from Maribor, I think, to Bratislava, or Ljubljana to Bratislava. Yes.
200 something miles away. But
it might have been Brno, sorry. Yeah, Slovakia, yeah.
But it flew. And the one thing that I was pleased when they were talking about the technical detail of the vehicle itself, how quickly the wings can come up and retract, etc. But the thing that I was so pleased about, the actual vehicle itself has got its own parachute in case things go wrong.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Just well, there's aircraft now. The Cirrus SR20 has a parachute already.
I'll tell you, that would be for me.
I would rather, you mentioned the Aurora spaceship, Chris. There's a ship called the Aurora. It's run by P&O Cruises. I will much rather be watching you above, wishing I was up there, I'd rather be watching you up there from down here, wishing I was up there.
Yeah, but it's amazing. It's amazing how things are changing now. Huh?
Yeah.
And long may it keep changing. And just coming back to the little analogy of the England football team, with the competency training, with bringing youngsters back into the industry, you spoke about apprenticeships. We should be doing a lot more of that. And then what we should be doing, just like the team, if you look at that team now, you've got a few guys there who are only a few years away from finishing their career. You've got some guys there who only just turned 18 or 19.
Yeah.
On the field, they're equals, and they mix well, they blend well, and they use each other's, core skills to the advantage, and they learn from each other. I feel that's the one thing we don't do in our industry.
I think so.
They drop off, they're gone. Someone comes in, far better to get some.
I think there's also there's mileage, Chris. Hopefully, what this bloody awful pandemic has done is move people through the industry to different companies.
Yes.
So maybe in similar roles but different companies, because actually I think that's always very helpful. Some people that I speak to, they spent 20 years with British Airways or 30 years combined with Service Air Swissport, or now nothing wrong with that. However, it doesn't engender understanding different ways of working, or sort of getting the best out of your own people or your operations, because you don't see things in a different way. You do the same thing. You got the same, what I experience is, the same 1 year of experience to the power of 30.
Yeah. No, it's a tough one, Steve. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, and that's something that needs to change. But you need a balance of people that are loyal and are happy to stay in an environment, and those that want to bounce and circulate and see what's out there, and then start blending.
I'm always happy to bounce, Chris.
Yes, mate. Yeah.
And talking of bouncing, we should bounce ourselves over to the restaurant now, because the Brunello Montalcino is breathing, and I suspect that the Yorkshire puddings will be going soggy if we don't make our move, because the kitchen will close in 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Happy days, mate. Let's go. Great exit strategy, Stephen, as always. Thanks very much. Another week's gone by. Look forward.
I'll see you very soon, Chris.
You will indeed, in a matter of minutes.
Seconds, I'd say.
All the best.
Cheerio.